Our next presenter is Solomon Everta. He's discussing Rediscovering the Lost Eureka Book of Days. Solomon.
Left side. Super. Hello, everybody. It's so amazing. I'm just amazed every time I go to a history function in Humboldt County because it's just, I'm overwhelmed with how much knowledge and care there is about our history. With that being said, I'm having a bit of imposter syndrome right now, as this project is 99% art and 1% historical research. Those of you who've been to the website will know what I'm talking about. So here we go. Ah, yes. A little small to read up there, but about 2 o'clock yesterday afternoon, Captain Hansen's little 3-year-old daughter wandered away from its home at the corner of F and 9th Street, presumably to go and see some of its friends. But it must have got lost soon after leaving the house, for its mother was not long in missing the child, and a search immediately commenced. The mother's fears were deeply aroused when the only trace of the lost one was the fact that she had been seen in the vicinity of Carson's Mill, and it was not until 8:30 in the evening that anything more was heard from her, at which time she was returned to her home by Mrs. Borg, who had found the infant on B Street going toward California Street. It is not known how far the little thing wandered while trudging around the streets, but it is certain that the mother was overjoyed by receiving her child again. That was found in the January 4th, 1889 Humboldt Daily Standard. So if you go to the webpage losteureka.com and you were to find on January 13th of 2019, you would find this story. Sunday, January 13th, 1889. 3-year-old Miss Hansen practiced her skill of invisibility for 6 hours until the perceptive Mrs. Borg returns the child to her worried mother. Read more here. When you click on here, you will find the story I just read you from the newspaper. Now, there are 2 things that are kind of remarkable about this story that really jumped out at me right away. The first was that this child had been missing for 6.5 hours, and you can imagine like how heartbreaking and frightening that was. So when we say invisibility, then maybe we kind of try to understand why that occurred. The second thing was that she was found by Ms. Borg. And if anybody who's familiar with the term knows that the first reference to cyborgs was actually in the September 1960 Aeronautics magazine by Mr. Manfred Klein and Nathan S. Klein, both with these very similar, suspiciously similar last names. The other suspicious thing was that later in their life, both Dr. Kleins would sport some really remarkable beards. I'd like to single out Jack Irvine for my inspiration for this particular piece, who I've worked with over at Eureka Books. Anyway, moving on. That's Lost Eureka. So this is our time and place. This is Lost Eureka. In 1873, the Western Union Telegraph reached Eureka, California. What other information was relayed over the wires? In 1879, the Vance Hotel installed electric lights. What were they working on late into the night? And what else did they electrify? In 1882, John Dolbear invented the steam donkey, reportedly to make timber harvest more efficient. What other inventions became steam-powered? In 1885, Rick's Water Company installed the first water system. What other liquids flowed through the pipes in the homes of the fortunate? In 1886, a weather observation station was constructed atop the Bune building at 2nd and G Streets. Was it to assist in the navigation of hot air balloons, dirigibles, and zeppelins? In 1887, the first street rail car system was pulled by horses. What other animals might have pulled those streetcars? In 1889, the Humboldt County Courthouse was completed with statues of Roman goddesses looking down. What might these goddesses have seen as they surveyed the city of Eureka, California? They would have seen lost Eureka. What if the species what if the reason that the distinct species of Humboldt's flying squirrel, I'm not even going to pronounce that, exists in this locale not because of random chance, but rather because of its of selective breeding for its particular skills at foraging? What if a pneumatic tube system ran below ground within the tunnels from the Carson Mansion to the courthouse and City Hall? I know you've heard that story. What if sea monsters lurked in Humboldt Bay? This is a Basque shark, by the way. Look up Basque shark on Lost Eureka and you'll find the story. What if it was all true but completely unprovable? What if all we have are the remnants of a small artist collective formed near the turn of the century, which correspond to a cryptic book of days? In 1899, when the first automobile reportedly drove into Eureka, California, would the inhabitants of this town have marveled at the contraption, or would they have just seen it as a simple invention, not quite on par with so many of their own? So, another story. On 2019, on the 17th of February, at losteureka.com, this story was posted. Sunday, February 17th, 1889. Late in the evening, she entrusts the skeleton key to Mr. Eustace, who will claim he found it in front of the post office. Once her beloved can tell the keymaster of the lock it belongs to, he will gain entry. Lost Eureka has been here all along, just waiting for you to lose yourself in this fabulous past. Give yourself permission to be lost. Now I will entertain questions, many of which I will say I'm not at liberty to give you an answer to. The microphone's over there. I'm sure someone has a question for me. No? Well, Milt, yes.
One thing I found fascinating in the stories that you posted is that think of the size of the population of Eureka at this time. And so there are numerous references in newspaper articles and columns that speak of supposedly unknown individuals or anonymous individuals who everybody reading the newspaper story knows who the editor or the writer is talking about. And so what's fascinating is how that is all lost to history because we don't have that intimate knowledge of who these people were. Comment about that.
You know, the important part for this project for me has been that history is about storytelling. It's the stories that you tell. And a lot of that story we get is from the newspapers at the time. And so it has a particular slant. It has a particular perspective and point of view. In finding the Lost Eureka 1889 Book of Days, it's another narrative. And from what I've gathered so far in finding it is that it was written obviously after 1889. And to me, it sounds like a father telling some fantastic stories to his sons about this place. But finding the newspaper articles with this corroborating evidence has been enlightening, time-consuming, and as many of you know. But there's a lot there in those newspaper articles, and sometimes you do have to read between the lines in order to find the story. What is the story that's there? And that's partially what we're doing. Yes, Arlene? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Just want to encourage you guys to use the microphone because we're filming for Access Humboldt and they can't hear you unless you're at the microphone. It's a wired one, so yeah. Okay, sorry.
Arlene's not afraid of the microphone.
No. Oh.
Thank you, Arlene.
Actually, it was just a simple question. How can they subscribe to your thing online, and does it cost anything? And I'm a subscriber, and I have been enjoying it, and they're just little snippets that pop up every week. But how do they get on?
Sure, yeah, on the website, there's a link on there to sign up for email notices. And this next year, we'll be re-releasing the year's stories, just one story every day, and from 1889. And so you can get it sent to you in an email, and it's free, of course, although donations are gladly accepted. And the other exciting part is that it's becoming a project of the Ink People Center for the Arts, so it'll be a nonprofit thing that you can donate to the Ink People, and it supports them. That's where you sign up there. It's just right on losteureka.com. There's a button you click on it. Just click on the big logo for that.
And just say, I want to join you.
That's right. Put your email in, and then we'll send you an email story a day from 1889 every day in 2020.
Okay, losteureka.com.
You're so good, Arlene. Thank you. She's on my payroll, I think. Any other questions? Oh,
Please
Yes.
use the microphone.
yeah, Bob Habershell.
You'll need to use the microphone.
Or if it's a short one, I can repeat it for you. I seen Bob up at the Eureka Humboldt County Library also. We're kind of compete sometimes for the microfilm machine, but they've got a new one up there. It's pretty nice.
So, yeah, it's nice to meet you, and it's a great thing you're doing. It's very entertaining, but what do you have for November 9th, 1889?
That's not been released yet, so thank you so much. So it takes a lot of work to do a lot of this research of what's been going on, and so that's why we kind of slowed down this last year. The intention was that we were going to have a story a day for the year of 2019 because they're identical calendar years. January 1st, 1889 and January 1st of 2019 are both start on Tuesday, and they're both normal calendar years, but unfortunately, I'm a one-man show. Although the other good news is that I have an artist who's working on interpreting some of these stories, and we'll be releasing some of the artwork to go with what we've done. So I'm definitely looking for other artists who are interested in interpreting some of this work. All right. Thank you so much, and available at the lunch break.